welcome, and we're certainly seeing the exact same thing at our center, and I'm going to be telling you about the center because there's a great interest in post-secondary education, and that reminds me, I need to make sure I put my phone on vibrate, for students with intellectual disabilities. Today we're going to be talking about life beyond high school. You know, isn't it funny, you're in high school and you think, will I ever get beyond high school? Hoping, wishing, and then you get past high school and you're like, well, maybe I'd like to go back and enjoy a few more of those years in high school one more time, whenever you move forward. My name is Drew Andrews, and I'm the Technical Assistance Coordinator at the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities at the University of Central Florida. Not sure exactly why that's doing that. I don't want to connect with anybody. Let me turn my turn Wi-Fi off. Maybe that'll stop that.
Yeah. Bet you Wi-Fi is how I was connected to this. Someone gave me this just earlier today, and they said, "Here, you can use this with your presentation." I said, "Okay." Usually I just click for what it's doing. Okay, now I just did this just a moment ago, and it worked.
Looks like it's still connected.
Yeah.
It's finding your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
All right. We're not going to waste time with that.
No.
I'm going to do this. Turn that off. There we go. Little technical difficulties there. How many of you are familiar with the Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Program Act? Okay, very good. I tell folks that, you know, I've been a Floridian all of my life. I'm actually a 7th generation Floridian, and that I am thrilled to death that Florida legislators had the forethought to create this act and to finally provide an opportunity for post-secondary education to students who had not had that opportunity before. This took place in 2016. So, just going to quickly tell you a little bit about this because we are not, a lot of folks think we're a grant at UCF. We're not. We're a legislatively funded center that was created and placed at UCF, and we're funded through general fund dollars through the state. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what our charge is because we're given lots of responsibilities. Our executive director was given lots of responsibilities. Also, criteria was set up for the approval as a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program. And I say that, I know it's a long phrase to say, but there are also comprehensive transition post-secondary programs, and that's the federal approval as a comprehensive transition program, and that's also a part of what we support folks through. But in Florida, we have specifically the Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs, which is structured exactly the same as the federal comprehensive transition programs. But we got some benefits because they funded the programs here in Florida to see more programs created, and they also funded some dollars for students to be able to participate. They talked about institutional eligibility and responsibility and student eligibility. So the Act also established scholarships, and Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Scholarships are currently funded at $7,000 a year for a student with intellectual disabilities who is enrolled in an approved Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition program. The Senate Appropriations Committee is looking to see if $7,000 is enough. And for some students who maybe are at a career tech center, $7,000 is certainly enough. But for students who are at universities, especially private not-for-profit universities, who are also eligible to have programs, $7,000 is not enough to meet all of the needs, but we're gathering data on that to really know what does it cost for a student with intellectual disabilities at college. We also have grants to support program startup. So if a university, state college, or career tech center wants to start a Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Program, they can, and we'll help them with that. And then there's also a grant that they can request. That is $300,000 to be able to start that program. There's also a lot of accountability because, you know, wherever there are dollars, there's accountability. And so we're doing a lot of reporting on student success, enrollment, and all those types of things. So we were charged with disseminating information. That's why we're here at the Family Cafe and have been for a couple of years, sharing information about the center at UCF and about the programs that are around the state. If you've been by our table, we're on the back wall, and we are the state coordinating center. There is a program at UCF, and then there are other programs around the state, and we have information on those programs that are established. So we share information with students and families on Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs, on services and supports for students with disabilities throughout Florida, mentoring, networking, and employment opportunities. So not only for students with intellectual disabilities, which is who the programs are for, but we also have information on disability service offices that are located at universities, state colleges, and career tech centers around the state. So if you're looking for disability information at the post-secondary level, our website is the place to go, and I've got information on that coming up shortly. So we developed an application that universities, colleges, and career tech centers complete to be approved as a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program. We administer those startup and enhancement grants for those who want the dollars to support their program. And then we collect, analyze, and report evaluation information regarding program and student outcomes. Develop and implement and evaluate the scholarships to eligible students. As I said earlier, is $7,000 enough money? And looking at how those dollars are being used, and make recommendations to state government regarding policy changes and funding needs. So, of course, we're working with vocational rehabilitation and looking at ways at the post-secondary level that colleges, universities work with VR, vocational rehabilitation, so that that can be another support that's part of this framework. So the eligible institutions that are listed in the legislation are state universities, Florida college system institutions, career centers, career technical centers, and an independent college or university that is located, and that explains. It's basically a college or a university that is a private, not-for-profit institution, but that also meets the William L. Boyd requirements for Florida Access Grant Program, and also is SACS accredited. Southeastern University in Lakeland is a religiously affiliated university. They're one of the universities that has one of our programs. Beacon College is also, they do not have an approved program at this time, but they're looking at it. They're also a private, not-for-profit that meets the requirements to be able to have a program. Eligible students, and lots of folks have lots of questions about this, and so along the way, if you have a question, feel free to stop and ask me, and I'll try to share that information with you. But the legislation states that must be a student with an intellectual disability, as that term is defined at the federal level. That student must physically attend that college, university, or career tech center. It's not for online courses where they could do it at home and just be connected with that university. And they must submit that eligible documentation of an intellectual disability to that institution. So we, as the state coordinating center, are not the determiner of whether a student has intellectual disabilities or not. Each individual program is. Things that folks may use, a current plan for employment associated with a review, and that would be through vocational rehabilitation. It could be a diagnosis from a physician who is licensed here in Florida, a psychologist. It could be an IEP that lists that the student has intellectual disabilities. Now, just to clarify, because we also work very closely with the Centers for Autism and Related Disabilities here in the state. And students who are on the autism spectrum sometimes are students that also meet the classifications for students with intellectual disabilities. Actually, probably about half of the students the card centers tell us that they provide services to are students that also meet the requirements to be identified as a student with an intellectual disability. So students who were labeled as autism spectrum disorder in their IEP may also qualify for these programs at universities, state colleges, and career tech centers.
So is age 26 the maximum? Is that
Age
qualify?
26 is in the legislation, but the programs have not held to that. And nobody's complained yet, and we're like, you know what? This is providing access to someone that didn't have access before. And so I'll tell you that we had a 57-year-old man that has completed one of these programs, and his dad was a graduate of the Naval Academy, and this young man actually went to FAU. And so when the FAU Owls played the Naval Academy, his dad said he wore his Naval Academy t-shirt, and his son wore his FAU Owls t-shirt, and his dad said that may have been the best day of his life. Because you know what? They had waited, their other children had gone to college, and finally there was an opportunity for their other son to go to college. You know, if that doesn't make people change their mind about what the needs are out there and that the programs are so needed, I don't know what will. But that's very, we also have a young lady who's, I think, 52, who's in a program somewhere. And so the legislation was written that way. What it does say is that students have to have exited the K-12 system. So this is not dual enrollment. There are lots of great dual enrollment programs out there. But this legislation and this funding is strictly post-secondary. Did you have a question?
Yes, for FAU and I will insert, like, my favorite number, my
Yes.
favorite player is, my favorite number is 27.
Number 7.
Yeah, number
So
7.
you wear the number 7?
Yeah, FAU football jersey.
All right.
Number
Are they a
7.
good? How did they do this season? Did they do pretty good?
Yeah, next year I will be Cubs. I got our team to win.
All right. Well, yeah, at UCF, we kind of want our team to win too, you know?
We live near FAU, so.
So, the application key pieces, and these are things that are important that really, the Florida legislation really defines so clearly. This is focused on an employment outcome. It's not just a college experience. It's focused on an employment outcome. It's inclusive. It's not a program that's housed on a college campus. There may be sometimes whenever just the students who are part of this program do something together as far as a class or, you know, an orientation, but this is inclusive. This is to be included in the campus at large, not separate. A student must be no less than half-time. They must also be working towards a meaningful credential or an industry certification. It requires that they make satisfactory academic progress or performance just like any other student that's at college, or they get called in, they're put on probation because they need to be working towards this and making progress. And then also, one of the requirements in the legislation is that once a program here in Florida has applied to be a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program, they must complete the Federal Comprehensive Transition Program application. And what that does is really the wonderful part of all of this. And this is part of the Higher Education Act of '08, it gives students access to financial aid, to Pell Grants. And so all of the financial aid benefits that other students receive, students who are part of these programs receive those also. So they do this during the programs do this during their first year. And right now, every program that's done it, we've been able to work with them, and they've received their federal CTP is the term that folks use for that. Yes?
I'm sorry, is that different than FAFSA?
No. That means that they complete a FAFSA just like everyone else, and they have access to those dollars.
Okay.
You're right. Yes, it's done through.
Because
It's done through the
we've done that
finance.
already, I was just wondering if that was something from my side.
Right. Nope. It's part of this, and it's part of that's what the comprehensive transition program allows.
So that's another link, you're saying?
Correct. It ties in and
Okay.
links there.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's newer, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that piece newer?
Which
The,
piece?
the funding, the federal,
The
Pell
federal.
Grants
That's
and all
that was in '08, 2008.
For this program?
For the federal dollars.
Right, for
This didn't come along until 16.
Right.
So those federal dollars were, well, the federal legislation was passed in '08, so it didn't happen in '08. It was about 2010, probably, whenever some programs really got going on that. So, just to review, there are 4 major parts of the legislation. There's the center at UCF. There is the application to become an approved program. There is a grant to receive funding to support your program, and there is the student scholarship. Those are the 4 major areas of this legislation. So the application requires approval of the institution's governing board. That means the president of the university. If it's a career tech center, it's the superintendent of schools for that district. Says that this will be an official program on their campus. It's not going away. These become programs in the catalogs for students. It requires, like I said there, requires a copy of the institution accrediting agency that they're letting us know that they're accredited. And it also requires final approval by the Board of Governors for universities or by the Florida Department of Education and either the State Colleges Division or the Career Technical Education Division at the Florida Department of Education. So there are opportunities that have been created. So at universities, Florida Atlantic University has the Academy for Community Inclusion. The University of Central Florida has the Inclusive Education Services, and Southeastern University has LINK. Those are the programs that have been established at universities. I can also say that there are 3 other universities that we're working with right now who hopefully within a couple of years will have programs also. Now, one of the reasons and one of the things I'll be right with you, one of the things I'd like to share with you all is this. Your taxpayers here in the state of Florida, your family members, or you're an educator, or you have a concern about the students that are being provided services through this. You can call any university, state college, or career tech center and tell them, you know what, I would love to see a program in my area of the state. Because there are lots of students with intellectual disabilities where there's not a program that's established. And the funding was put there for there to be programs throughout the state. There are 120 eligible institutions that could start on the list that's on our website of institutions that could start a program. Call and let someone know, because sometimes all it takes is colleges, universities knowing that families want this. So I just would encourage you to do that. Now, yes, you had a question.
Do you know what the future colleges that are in the works?
Well, Florida Gulf Coast is one who's working on that. Florida International University in Miami is one that's working on that. And then we have one other, and they're just at the initial stages, so I don't want to mention any, but we do have a couple of others. And then, so these are at the university level. Now at the state college, I'm sorry, and I have some information here about those. So the program at Florida Atlantic University is a 2+ year course. It's 14 courses. And students leave with either supported community employment, supported community access, supported community living credential. And so the students have been at the Jupiter campus, which is the honors campus. They're expanding to their Boca campus. Also, the University of Central Florida has a 3-year program. And one of the areas that they had, and I just realized right now I've not added the other things, was we have some students that are finishing up with a preschool credential, but they've also expanded to a business credential, to a hospitality credential, also at the University of Central Florida. State colleges that have approved programs. Florida Keys Community College. And not all, but many of these programs have residential components. So students stay in dorms as other students, or in one instance, students stay in an apartment that is nearby at one of the universities. But I thought about that in Florida Keys, because the dorms at Florida Keys, if you've not been there before, you should visit, because they're about 15 feet away from the water. And I thought to myself, why didn't I think of going to Florida Keys Community College to get my 2-year degree? My parents thought it would be better if I went to Lake City Community College, because that was only about 30 minutes away. But also, Santa Fe College has a program. Indian River State College has a program. St. Pete College is developing a program that will be accepting students, hopefully, within a year. And Tallahassee Community College.
These are all residential ones?
Not all have residential. Some have residential and some do not. So, at Indian River State College, upon completion of the project stage, students are awarded a certificate for transition and exploration, an occupational completion point, and that may be in informational technology. It may be in specialized career ed. The basic, based on their career technical education program choice, because we're really looking at programs meeting students' interest. We've all been in a course at some point in time that we had very little interest. And you probably weren't terribly successful in that. And so this is what's available. We'd love to have lots more programs available so we could meet students' specific interests and their abilities. But these are some of the different basic career technical education programs where students may earn occupational completion points. Santa Fe College kind of does a broad sweep, and we don't tell programs exactly how they have to create or what their program needs to look like. What it needs to do is it needs to meet the needs of students in that area. And so Santa Fe does a ServSafe food handler. They do CPR and a first aid certificate for all their students. The training on child care training. They do a red carpet service training, which is basically customer service. They do the rape aggression defense for all of the females that are in their course. They do the National Center for Construction Education and Research. Students can also work towards the CNA. Let me say that these programs, as you see, are not specifically a degree that the student's going towards, but a credential. However, we're not holding anyone back, because who's to say after a student has experience at the college, and we're seeing some students that are doing some pretty amazing work and having some great successes. If that student wants to continue, if a student was to get their CNA and they wanted to go on, they could certainly do that. If a student who found their unique skill in any of these programs, that student could certainly continue. But what we're seeing is a lot of maturity and development of students once they enter these different programs. One young lady at one state college was in a math course. And it wasn't an advanced math course, but it was a math course with lots of college students. And she made the highest grade. They accommodated her because she needed to take tests by herself in a room where she wasn't distracted. And I heard the instructor share this information, this testimony about this young lady, that math was just simply it was her strength. And it's what she did well. And she came out with the highest score in the class whenever the class was finished. Career Tech Centers. And as you know, many of the Career Tech Centers are associated with school districts. And so Florida Panhandle Technical College is with Washington County, McBatter Technical College, Broward County, Robert Morgan Education Center and Technical College with Miami-Dade, and Cape Coral Technical College and Fort Myers Technical College are with Lee County. And they're just in the development stages right now, Cape Coral and Fort Myers. But at Robert Morgan, their students who are in graphic design are competing at Skills USA, and they're making it to national competitions. And this is not just for students with disabilities. This is for Skills USA covers all students in these programs. And the students have come back with some medals where they have gone nationally and competed. So, you know, it's really inspiring to see what's happening whenever supports are put in place and students have an interest in a program. Some really great things are happening. So just a little bit here about Florida Panhandle Technical College. You have the handout, so I'm not going to go through and read these, but their program basically allows for more time, and accommodations is the main accommodation that they provide. Robert Morgan Technical College, as I said, baking and pastry arts, creative arts, which encompasses those animation, commercial art, digital media animation, gaming, and web development are the areas that they are in. McBatter Technical College, it's agri-science, and they have a local certification that they're giving to students. And there are so many more opportunities to come. And so we still have applications available. And if you'd like to know more about, you know, the State College or the Career Tech Center that is near you, see me afterwards. I'd be happy to provide you with information. We still have the RFP for startup grants. And even after someone does a startup grant, if they want to do an enhancement grant after that, they can do that. So we're talking about $600,000 that they could receive to support a program. Most folks are hiring someone to be a coordinator. That's what grant dollars are being used for in many cases. But and they're spreading those dollars over a 3-year time span. But there are both startup and enhancement grants. And the student scholarships, we well over 100 scholarships were given out this year, and there'll be even more that will be given out next year. And that's $7,000 to the students. It goes through financial aid. Whatever dollars are not used are at the end of the year in most cases are given to the student to help support post-secondary expenses, just like many of us experienced. Buying pizza on Friday night, or buying gas, or paying for an Uber ride where you need to go somewhere, or buying clothes for school, or whatever it is that you may need, a fan for your dorm room, whatever you might need, those dollars go to students after the Career Tech Center, university, or state college has taken the expenses that are just any college expenses that they would encounter. Yes, ma'am.
He was adopted, so they gave him free 2 years technical or 4 years university.
Great.
Could he use that, or does he have, or is this program just strictly for
Students? No, students are using more than one. Students are using more than one scholarship, and just like any other student, they can have more than one. In some cases, vocational rehabilitation is paying the tuition, and so these dollars are being used for other things. So it's just, I think it was Florida's way of just making sure that there were dollars for students to be able to attend. Yes?
Did you have to fill out the FAFSA in order to apply for this, or did you apply directly?
No, thank you for asking that, so I can be clear on that. The scholarship that we have, if a student is in an approved program, That approved program is going to ask the student if they would like the $7,000 scholarship, because we have had one family that did not want the $7,000 scholarship, but all other students, it's not an application process. It's just a scholarship that goes to students that are in approved. The only requirement is that they're in an approved program and that they're making satisfactory academic performance.
And on your website, you have the list of the approved programs per se?
Yes, on our website, under Find a Post-Secondary Program, there's a list of all of the programs. There's also a list of other programs that are in the state that are not approved programs, but that are post-secondary programs for students with intellectual disabilities. Okay? Another thing that we've done is we have provided a resource, not a grant, but a resource to high schools in Florida. We've offered to them if they would like to create a college and career transition club. Because for many students in those last years of high school, there's a college day whenever they can go and visit colleges. We wanted students with intellectual disabilities to be able to do the same. So we have on our website, if you scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see College and Career Transition Club applications, and we're providing a $6,000 resource to any high school in Florida that would like to create a college and career transition club. It must have an equal amount of students with intellectual disabilities, students with other disabilities, and students without disabilities, because we want it to be inclusive. It must be run just like any other club at the high school, and if you're familiar with that process, that includes a sponsor. And so we wanted to provide dollars, so there would be dollars for field trips, and we've had students come to UCF and visit the program from out in Wakulla County. We also wanted to make sure that there were dollars for them to be able to start the club just like any other club. And we're hoping we're going to do that for 2 years per high school. And we're hoping by that time they'll be self-sustaining just like any other club. They're doing car washes, whatever type of fundraiser that they want to do. But we want to increase students' awareness of college as an option and how college can help them move into a career and have a successful transition. Yes?
Drew, is that just for public schools?
It's for public and private, not-for-profit. We have had one or two, and if they're private, not-for-profit schools, then we've done that, yes. All right. Because what we want to do is make the dream a reality. And this is empowering students and families, creating more post-secondary opportunities. You know, Florida was recently listed as the #1 state for post-secondary opportunities for students because of the number of state colleges, universities that we have here, and post-secondary options. We want that to be also for Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs, that there are more options, because I'm not sure, but many of us know the number of students with intellectual disabilities that have exited the K-12 system, and there just has not been a lot of options out there, and we want those options to be available to them, where there's a range of opportunities, so that students don't fit into the programs that are there, but students choose which program they would like to attend. And we have had students. We had a student from Panama City who attended the program in Key West and was very successful. These programs usually include a peer mentoring component, and there are supports in place for students. Because we want Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs to be a routine, something that everybody's familiar with. So I mentioned earlier our website, which is fcsua.org. And you'll find all of the different, these are our different menu bar items that we have listed here. And so under students and families, you'll find a link there to find a post-secondary program, and it has a list of every program, the contact person, and if they have a website, it gives you a link to their website. But fcsua.org is our website. So, tell me a little bit, what do families need to support successful transition to post-secondary education?
Options.
Options, okay, great.
Assurances.
I mean, start planning as young as possible, you know,
So-
like the interests.
Exactly, to start planning, and that's why we're trying to get this information out. And when I have somebody that comes by the display table, the information table, or I'm talking to, and they said, oh, I don't need to be thinking about that yet. No, you need to be thinking about that now. It's never too early to start thinking about that. Even if your child or young person is in elementary school, start thinking about post-secondary opportunities. What else? Someone else? Yes.
High school administrators are more aware of the programs and the requirements for the programs.
Exactly.
Especially when you do the IEPs.
Right.
You really have no idea.
Right, and when you're, with what this lady's just shared about high schools knowing more.
Yeah.
High schools, there are 4 major indicators in the disability area of transition, and that's indicator 1, which is graduation, indicator 2, which is dropout rate, indicator 13, which is the IEP listing and being accurate with goals for the future, and indicator 14, which is post-secondary goals are written in the IEP and students being found in post-secondary education. Those goals are all supported through this, and that's why from here I leave and I'm going to the Special Education Directors Summer Institute to share information, because post-secondary programs like this will only support more districts. And so districts need to be encouraging students, helping students plan for post-secondary education. Because if a student is found in post-secondary education the year after they exit, districts receive a better score. If they're found in employment, if they're found in post-secondary education, if they're found in employment and post-secondary education, they also look to see if students are found in the military or students are found incarcerated, unfortunately. But those are the things that the Department of Ed looks for and goes out and pulls information on students. So it's going to support high schools, but yes, making sure that high schools are aware, and that's part of our rationale behind the college and career transition clubs, is to make sure that they have that information. I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information, but any other things that families need or questions that you have about information that I've shared today? Yes, sir.
Are there any resources in the Panhandle? I mean, I'm from Panama City as well, and I mean,
Right.
on her IEP, before they even asked me, they list the only option we have available for post-education, which is a life skill thing called Chautauqua.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, but
Right.
that's fine, but maybe that's not what we want
Right.
to do. Anybody nearby?
Panhandle, the Panhandle Panhandle area, technical in Chipley has an approved program, but any state college in that area is eligible to create a program. So whether it be, or any career tech center. So whether it be, let's see, Northwest Florida State College is near in Okaloosa County, right?
Yeah,
Okay, and in Panama City, what's your state college?
Gulf Coast State.
Gulf Coast State College. They could create a program. All of these could all create a program.
But if you, do you have to call them and say, would you please create the program, and then wait however
We're
many
sending
days for them to
they're
do it?
receiving lots of information regularly from us. Let me just say it that way.
They need outside pressure.
That would probably help them move on some of those things. You know, to know that families really want to see this happen, because we know that out in the Panhandle, there aren't a lot of, Tallahassee Community College, has a program, but Tallahassee's a long way from.
Yeah,
from
and frankly,
Panama.
she's not ready to go anywhere and stay in a dorm.
Right, right.
But-
So yes, so we would love to see those state colleges create programs, and we provide lots of support. Yes, ma'am.
What about if the school had a program and then was told that they had lost their funding? A couple of years ago, Suncoast Center for, it was SCTI at one time, and then it became
Suncoast Technical College in Sarasota.
And they had a program. As a matter of fact, my daughter was in the skills program. She was only in it for 1 year, and then right after that,
So
they
they're
told her
eligible.
they
They're
lost-
eligible to create a program.
But they
Suncoast.
had it, And they dropped it, and I don't know how you can get them to bring it back.
Right. Well, this has only been since 2016 that we've been established, that the legislation was established, so it was the first year during that, 2017. So I know that there have been programs that have started and stopped. And I think that, again, this is legislation in Florida. And I mean, that means something. That doesn't mean that this is something that's funded for 2 years and then it's going to go away. And there's been some other things that have been funded, with different dollars, but these are general funds that are coming from the state to support these programs. So if someone has had a program, it's not like this is another short-term. Yes, our funding is only for 3 years. You could have a startup grant, 3 years for an enhancement grant. But there's also all of the other supports, like the scholarships that will continue on with students. So there certainly could be a program at, I know that it's one of the schools that's on the list.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
encouragement, for them to start, and we would be happy to work with the folks there in Sarasota County.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
With regards to the requirements, I have twin daughters. One has a regular diploma from high school, and the other one has a special diploma. Both intellectual disabilities, but they have different variances. How would that affect?
There is, in the legislation, there is not a requirement for a standard diploma. And it was written that way because some students did not have a standard diploma. So you can have a standard diploma, or you can have a special diploma, and it really doesn't say that you have to have a diploma. You apply, and remember that post-secondary education is through eligibility. So there are certain requirements that these programs have that a student needs to be able to do this, this, and this, and different programs have a little bit of different requirements.
Right.
But it's not entitlement like the Individual Disability Education Act is. But there's not a requirement that a student has to have a standard diploma to be able to enter one of these programs. Yes?
So Drew, you said earlier that they have to be separated from the K-12 system. How does that work with students who defer their high school diploma now?
They have to receive it.
So they have to actually receive it.
Right. And, one of the things that I've been sharing with, we have lots of students who have met their high school and defer and stay with the school district. But if there were more post-secondary opportunities, lots of people don't want to stay in high school beyond 4 years. And so they could go ahead, so a student can move on after 4 years of high school as long as they've exited, or they can do a deferment, and then whenever they want to exit, and then enter one of these programs. Yes?
The way I'm hearing it, okay, on Southeastern, you said that there's a link there and they can go and they can get a certification.
Yes.
Where they were going to work. Now, my daughter must go and participate in that program. She can't just go to Southeastern for 4 years and you're gonna give her $7,000.
Correct. She must be in the LINK
That
program. She must be a part of their Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program.
Okay.
Correct, yes. Yes?
Is the thinkcollege.net site up to date on the programs here in Florida as far as you know, or?
Yes, we work closely with Think College, and that's one of the ways that you can find out if a program has their federal comprehensive transition program. There's a link in the Think College website where you can look to see that. But yes, we work closely with Think College. The rest of the United States is pretty envious of us because we're the only state that has legislation that has created specifically a comprehensive transition program for our state, and that it has been funded well by our legislature. And so as we meet, at different times at national meetings with other people, other states are very envious because right now Florida is, I think that there might be one other state that might have more, but I think this year we'll be the leading state with post-secondary options and opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities in the nation. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to clarify again that the dependent in question, my son, he's got to be out of the system if he decides to go into this program, because he's going to be one that I'm deferring his diploma until he's 22. and he's gotta be totally out of that.
Correct. He must have
before he goes
exited the,
back.
must have
Now,
exited the K-12
You
system.
had mentioned, one of the questions was, what's the, how do families find out, I can't remember what the question was, but in my county, and I'm in Charlotte, Sarasota, I'm in Charlotte County, I find, for our county, I'm a big advocate in the county, I find there is a lack of, vendors, as far as, employment and career things go. But at our technical college, and I don't know if it's on the list, I'm gonna look at Charlotte Technical College.
It is on the list.
It is on the list. See, they have the real world program going, and that's where my son's going to go next year. So that kind of plays into that. But he's gonna be attending at age 22. He's gonna be staying in that program. So, but I understand what you're saying. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to go along with what you're talking about.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to
Yeah,
take
it
in.
is.
But do you see, let me just take it a little further with what you're sharing there. But any career technical education center that has a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program.
Right.
So maybe students come in after high school for a couple of years into that program with a program that the school district has for students who are deferring. And then they go to the Florida Post, and then they go into the FPCTP, rather than me saying the whole thing. So that gives students even more time to be able to complete whatever credential that they might be working on, or receive multiple credentials. Or go to that program and then go to a state college program that might be local. But yes, I know that technical college is one of the ones on the list.
Okay.
What's the state college in your area?
Well, it would be Sarasota, it would be SCF and
State College
FGCU. FGCU.
Oh,
State
no,
College
I think.
That's right, the State College of
FGCU
Florida,
is
that's right, which is a little bit, that's why I can't, because it doesn't have the name of
Right.
the area, but State College of Florida, that's right. Yes, that college is eligible also. Other questions you might have? Yes?
Okay, Bob. I'm going to college, I'm going to Southeastern College, which is Southeastern University. About I'll go inside. I will be worshiping because I'll go to college, Southeastern University, to be a pastor.
So did you say that you go to you've gone to FAU?
No, but Southeastern University.
Southeastern University?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
About be a pastor and worship.
At Southeastern University?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear some of the other part, my hearing's not the best, so tell me what your specific question.
Southeastern University for be a pastor and worship.
Oh, be an ambassador?
No, be a pastor.
A pastor.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you. A pastor.
pastor.
Yes, and one of the things that Southeastern University has had is an overwhelming amount of interest, because they do have such a connection with so many pastors and folks that are in religious service nationwide, and knowing that this program is available. That's what all of these programs are seeing. Once they have a program established, there is lots and lots of interest for students to be there. So yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many seats there are throughout the state through with all these programs?
Well, not enough. I can definitely tell you that. There's not enough. But I don't have an exact number. Many of these programs are starting out smaller with maybe 8 to 10 students. But then they're bringing in more students the following year and more students. So I know that there are some programs that have up to 40 students. But there are some programs that are relatively new that may just have 6 to 10 students. Yes?
Did you say we sign up for the scholarship again or whatever it was?
If you are in an approved program, so if you apply to one of the programs that's listed on the website, you automatically qualify for the scholarship. So if you are accepted and enrolled in that program, you qualify for that scholarship. Yes.
What was the name of the website again?
What's
Oh.
The website, it's FCSUA.
Oh,
Right here.
that's it.
Right here. Well, that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much. If you have any questions.
Right.